Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is episode 139. We are over the hump in July. We're a little bit more than halfway through. It is hot here in New York, and I'm loving it, loving the heat. As I always say, I'm never going to complain about how hot it is because I just don't like the cold. So I'm enjoying the summer. Some crazy rain last night, but it's just sunny and hot again today, back where we were yesterday. Crazy week in the news. I mean, Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt. That was crazy. How the Secret Service botched that, security up. I have no idea. They got a lot of explaining to do. That's all going on now. President Biden has COVID, and it sounds like he might be dropping out of the presidential race. So things are just in turmoil, and I'm just watching from the sidelines. But anyways, off politics, back onto the task at hand. So in this week's podcast, I'm going to talk a bit about greatness, and I'm going to talk about creating separation, like how the folks that are great at something are able to create separation. And the person who has really kind of, explained this the best or in the most relatable way to me is actually the late Kobe Bryant. And there's so many stories, I was always I've always been a basketball fan. Michael Jordan was kind of like the era that I was starting to really get into basketball. I was a young guy back then, and he's the GOAT of my generation's time. And then Kobe was a couple of generations, maybe a generation or two after that, or maybe just one generation after that, I guess I should say. And I always thought he was a great player. I've been a Knicks fan my entire life. Michael Jordan just would destroy us in the 90s. So that was always hard to see. But I always knew Kobe was great. I always followed him. But I really started to kind of get more into Kobe's greatness, after that tragic, helicopter crash that took his life. And, I've watched tons of YouTube videos, interviews with him, and, read a bunch of interviews that he's given and a bunch of articles about him. And he just really embodies, basically, creating greatness, making yourself great. And I read a great article actually this week, which is why I'm talking about this. But when Kobe Bryant was 10 years old, he was in a summer basketball league, and he didn't score a single point in any of his games that summer, and he was really down about it. And it's crazy that as a 10-year-old, which is a fifth grader, he that really rattled him. And then he said, I got to really start working on my game, working on all aspects of my game. So he started working on his close range shots, so he was working on his foul shots, started working on longer range shots, worked on his handles, all the various aspects of the game, and mastering those is what is how you become great. And he, at a very early age, he identified this. I mean, at 10, at 10, I was nowhere near even thinking about these things. But anyways, that next summer, when he was 11, he performed better than he did when he was 10. The following summer, he kept working at it, those small daily wins adding up, stacking those wins. And, by the time he was 14, he was the best basketball player in his age group in the state. And, this goes on and on, into his professional career. There was one video that I saw, it was an interview with Kobe that I saw a few years ago, but he was basically talking about how he still continued to create separation even as a professional. And he would talk about in the off season, most guys would take some time off, and then they would do one workout a day, kind of keep themselves fit, work on whatever they felt their weaknesses were, maybe their conditioning or whatever, the 3-point shot or their foul shot or, their handling, whatever it is. Kobe said, I took that to the next level. So, what I would do is, I saw everyone else was doing one workout a day. So I wanted to continue to create separation. So Kobe would do 4 workouts a day. He'd get up, he'd work out, then he'd eat something, rest a little bit, and then he'd do a second morning workout, then he'd eat lunch and rest a little bit, then he'd do his first afternoon workout, then he would eat something, rest a little bit, then he'd do his second afternoon/evening workout, then he'd have dinner, chill for a little while, go to bed, and then repeat. So he was getting 4 times as many workouts in as his competitors. And he said, you do that year after year after year, and you're creating more and more separation between yourself and the other folks in the league. And at some point, there's no way anyone can even catch up to you because that separation is so great. And, you know, all the greats in sports have this kind of mindset, you know, like Tom Brady, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, you know, Michael Phelps had that same, you know, mindset. You know, all of the greatest athletes in the world have that mindset. You know, they're as talented as they are, they're also the hardest working person in the room. And not even by like, you know, 10%. You know, in Kobe's case, it was like 400% more work he was doing than the next guy. And, you know, he was already the greatest basketball player in the NBA, you know, at that point in his career. And he was still working that hard. He was always creating that separation between himself and the others. In fact, you know, one of his teammates at some point, you know, complained about like, you know, Kobe, you're such a ball hog. You know, you never pass it. You never pass it between the end of the game. And Kobe's response to that was, yeah, you know, man, you know, I see how you practice. You know, you come to the arena like, you know, 10 minutes before the game, you're doing your shoot around. Meanwhile, Kobe's been there for hours. And he said, listen, I see the type of preparation that you're putting into this game. And I'm quite honest, I don't trust you. I don't trust you in the final minute of the game because you haven't put the work in. Like, I'm here busting my ass, putting the work in. I trust myself to get the job done. And he got the job done many, 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 many times over and over again. But, you know, that's it. That preparation, it creates readiness. You know, you can rely on your training, like when you're in like crisis mode, or like, you know, when you just have to kind of operate on reflexes, like, you know, when there's 5 seconds left in the game and you're down by 2 points, you need to hit that 3-point shot. You know, you're not actually thinking about that, but you know you can rely on all that effort you've put in. You know, all those workouts during the summer, all that time you spend while everyone else is doing something else and you're not focused on the task at hand, you're putting in the work so that you can deliver when, you know, when you need to deliver. And, you know, that was what's so great about Kobe. And, you know, that mindset really translates into every aspect of life. You know, I see these little videos of Kobe on Instagram and I send them to my kids because I just find them so inspiring and they inspire me. But just like, you know, the work that needs to be put in to be great at anything, to be a great dermatologist, to be a great teacher, to, you know, whatever your vocation is, you know, the way you create separation is by outworking the competition. And then at some point, all that work you put in, all that, you know, behind the scenes effort you're putting in, it creates so much separation that you're just in a league of your own, like the greats that I just mentioned. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful, restful weekend. Let's put that work in. Let's create that separation, you know, so we're in a league of our own. I hope you're just rested and ready to crush the week ahead. Let's get it.